What's up, boss beauties? Welcome back. I did a tutorial, I don't know, a couple videos back. That was the summer 16 powdered makeup for oily skin. So we're going to do the same thing today, but this time we are going to do liquid foundation. Everyone's been asking me, okay, that's great, but what if I have, hyperpigmentation? What if I have dark spots? What if I have acne or rosacea? So I'm going to show you some of my little tips and tricks that I like to do for my oily skin in the summertime. So let's go. First things first, prime. If you do not prime, you are going to be in big trouble, especially if you live in the south or a warm climate. If you do not have some sort of primer on under your foundation, it's going to be big trouble. Also, something that a lot of oily skin girls don't do, they do not moisturize their face. So what happens is you're sitting there and you're scrubbing your face with your cleanser and you're sucking out all the oil. And so what happens is your body goes into overdrive and will overactivate and add way too much oil because it feels like you've stripped it. So moisturizer. I like to use the Neutrogena Hydro Boost, or I will use the Dermalogica Clear Start Matte Moisturizer in the morning. So I'm already moisturized. I used Hydro Boost. So after you're nice and moisturized, first thing you want to do is primer. Okay, so I have a couple options and you can just kind of choose the one that fits your needs. We'll start off with these I call them like pore fillers. I have the Benefit Porefessional. I don't really like this for me. I feel like it stopped working. I like the L'Oreal Matcha Perfecting Base. This works way better on my skin. It's like this pale pink tone and it does not leave a white cast. I just pop it all over my pores and I'll put it in my T-zone. And then another option that I have here is the Becca Ever-Matte. Now, this is for severely oily skin bases. If you don't got oily skin, do not put this on because it is going to, this thing is like super heavy duty. I'm oily skin and I don't use this. But let's say if I'm going like out at night or if I'm going to be outside at an outdoor concert, this is my go-to. So this is a good option. And what I've been feeling lately here, I've said it plenty of times already on my channel, is the mattifying Cover FX. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this on. This, it's got that silicone feeling. And I just pop it on my face. And then I just rub it right on in. I use this every day, all day. It keeps my foundation on. It keeps me nice and matte. And also, I know right now no one's really into matte skin. Dewy is in, but when you're a natural oily girl, you don't really have to work too hard to get the dewy look. So, some things that you can do is if you want a really dewy look, I would use the Becca Mattifying. So that way it'll make sure you don't get oily, and then just use more of a dewier foundation. So that's one little trick that you can do. And by the way, my brows are already filled in, and then I just have some primer on my eyeballs here. And I do have this random dry spot here. I've had this for, I don't know, this shirt is going to be a pain. I've had this for a minute now, probably like 3 or 4 years. It's just a dry spot. I never cover it with foundation, so before someone tries to clock me in this video or in my other videos, say, oh, you missed a spot. I didn't miss a spot. I just don't put anything here because it's just a sensitive area on my skin and I don't like to fool with it. So that is that. And then after you got your primer on, I kind of like to let it sit for a couple of minutes. So while I have that on, I would move on to my brows. My brows are already done, and I like to put on some eye cream. Eye cream is bomb to put on, especially if you're going to be putting on concealer, because concealer tends to be a little bit more of a drier consistency. The under eye area is the most sensitive area, so you really want to make sure that your under eye area is hydrated if you are someone that likes to go in hard with highlighter or concealer. And that's just the CeraVe eye cream. Alright, so we got our primer on, we got our eye cream on. Next thing that I'm going to do is color correct. In the summertime, especially for oily skin, the less things you could put on your face is better, just simply because once you start adding on layers and layers and layers, that's when you're going to run into a big oily mess. So I am not going to put on concealer. This is just me. This is how I do things. If you want to put on concealer, cool. That's just not what I like to do. So I'm going to color correct. So I'm using the LA Girl Pro Concealer, and I'm just going to put this in the areas that tend to be a little bit darker. I don't really have prominent circles, but just like right up here in the inner corners tend to get a little bit dark, and then a little bit around my mouth here. Now, if you're someone that wants to color correct and highlight or conceal, do you. Remember, there are no rules to this, and everyone's skin and needs are different, so you just have to do what is best for you. If this were me, if I were going in with concealer, I would correct foundation and then put on my concealer. Because by the time you correct and put on your foundation, 9 times out of 10, you're really not going to need too much concealer. So at that point, you would probably just be highlighting. And again, I don't like to really do too much highlighting, concealing, just simply because it's summertime, it's hot, I'm oily, I'm gonna have my natural highlight popping in anyway, so it don't matter. And I'm just pressing it in with my finger. You can use a sponge, you can use a brush. If you're using a brush, don't swirl, press it in. Alright, so we've got that on. After that, I'm going to move right into foundation. So I have 3 foundations of choice. My first one is the MAC Match Master. This works great on my skin. Again, if you are sensitive to MAC products, disregard, don't listen to it. But if you're not, definitely give this a run. I've been using this foundation probably about, I don't know, 3 years now. You know, I like to give a drugstore alternative. So the Maybelline Matte and Poreless is a bomb. This is a really, really good one. And then after that, what I'm going to use a MAC foundation. It is the MAC Waterproof Foundation. This foundation saves the day, hands down. All day in the heat, in the salon, it really, really holds up. I've worn this to outdoor concerts in the summertime. I've worn this to work all day long. It really, really holds up. I recommend this to anyone that has oily skin. I don't know what I did with my bottle. Last time I had it, I squirted some in here because I was traveling and I was just trying to, you know, simplify. And I don't know what I did with it. So, what's that? So when you look at it, it comes like in a little plastic bottle, kind of like these. It looks heavy. It is a little bit thicker, but I personally don't feel it on my face just simply because I do go in light-handed. Like I said, this is a waterproof foundation. I have had sweat before. My oil, it just really keeps everything in control. So this is my favorite go-to foundation. So I'll show you the consistency there. And my shade is NC50. And the first thing I like to do one side of the face at a time. And I'm using a damp sponge. And I'm just bouncing this on. If you like a little bit more of a fuller coverage, I would recommend a stippling brush. Me personally, I am not at all a fan of foundation brushes because I feel like for me, I want my foundation going into my skin. I don't want to sit there and swirl it all the way around. And also, something else that I've found with foundation brushes is that they tend to be a little bit more streaky. I feel like every time I've ever used a foundation brush, I've always had to go in with a beauty blender or a sponge just to, you know, get away any of those streaky lines in my face. So that's just that's me. That's just me. That's how I like to do things. You do you. You do what works for you. I can't stress that enough. Do what works for you. And if you have color corrected, please, oh please, do not forget to make sure you have your foundation covering the color corrector. I'll never forget the first time I color corrected. And I put it on, and then I took a picture, and I was out and about thinking I was cute and whatnot, and I was like, oh my god, I can see the orange ring around my mouth. Yeah, I didn't blend it out enough. I did not have enough foundation in that area, so just be mindful of that. If you are someone of a lighter skin tone than I am, and you have dark spots or dark circles, you don't have to go for a hardcore pigmented orange corrector. You can use more of like a peachy salmon color, and that will correct any dark spots or under eye circles. Okay, so as you can see, my skin just looks nice and smooth, which is typically what I'm going for. I've said before, I'm not one that's like trying to cover every single imperfection on my face. That I don't care about. I just like to make it look nice and smooth and as even as possible. So if you see a bump or a scar or a dry spot, I'm not tripping. Okay, so the hands down most important part about your foundation is setting it. But let me backtrack first. If you are going to concealer highlight, now is the time. My recommendations, I have tried the Naked Skin in the Heat Urban Decay. It works, it's good, tried and true. And then the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer is a good one. Yes, I like MAC products for my face. It works. In fact, I only use from MAC foundations and lipsticks. That's it. I don't have any eyeshadows or anything else, but my face, bomb, love it. So these two are great. I don't know any good concealers from the drugstore. I haven't found any, so sorry I couldn't recommend. Oh, you could use the LA Girl Pro Concealer, my bad. That's an alternative. So LA Girl Pro Concealer, orange, or just a regular concealer, and then these two for highlighting or concealing. So if you need to highlight or conceal, go ahead and do so. Skipping it, I just, I don't like to have too much going on. Okay, so next, this is very, very important, especially in the heat and oily skin. You have to set your powder. The best powders for oily skin are loose powders, just simply because the loose powder is really going to help soak up the skin. And also, something that is good for oily skin now that it is in the heat, if you're going to bake in the summertime. I say that just simply because it's really going to help you with the oil. And I'm not a hardcore baker, but like I said, since it is a little bit warmer and I know things can shift and turn on you a little bit in the heat, I'll show you guys how I do slight baking, all right? So I like to take my setting brush. This is just a Real Technique setting brush, and I'm going to use some Sacha Buttercup powders. It's a yellow powder. And what I do is, although I don't have any concealer on, I can highlight with this. So I just go right on under here. Now, I don't put so much on so that I have to go back and sweep it off later. I just get a little bit, and I'm just pressing this in my under eye area. So instead of highlighting with concealer, I'm just doing it with the powder, and see, nice and smooth and flawless. You can see what it looks like. And again, don't swirl it on your face, just press it right into your skin. And then once I have it all up there, if I want to go for a little bit more of a highlighted effect, then I'll just simply add a little bit more and press it on. And I like doing this just simply because I can kind of get the highlighted effect without adding an extra layer of something on my skin, which is perfect. Then I'm just going to go down the center of my nose. And then anywhere that you feel that you get oily, like I get oily on my brows. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, still with my yellow powder, I'm going to take a fluffy brush, and then I'm just going to go around the rest of my face, and I only take a light bit of powder. I'm going to show you something, because sometimes if you overdo it with these translucent powders, you can kind of see a little bit of a cast. So I'm going to go ahead and press this all over my skin. Now, I feel like I'm looking at myself, like I can see like on my forehead and stuff, I look a little bit kind of like casty, ghostly, right? So what you're going to do now is find a very, very light powder. So my powders of choice would be either the CoverGirl Pressed Powder, I use the shade Soft Honey, or the Mineralize Skin Finish by MAC and Dark. So I don't know what I did with my Soft Honey one, but I have my Mineralized Skin Finish, and I like these because they are very lightweight. And with this, I'm just going to swirl my brush in here, and basically this is just going to add a little bit, not too much, just a little bit more color into my face, and it's going to take away that cast that I had up there. Okay, my battery died. So basically, I believe what I was saying was, if you get a little bit too much of a cast with your translucent powder, just grab a light powder, something that's not super, super heavy, light coverage, and just kind of go over the spots just to bring back some more color, and then you are good to go. So this really isn't hard to do. It's just basically the deal breaker is going to be making sure you have the correct tools. So I'm just going to go ahead here and show you guys what I like to use for my setting spray. Urban Decay Dew Slick is specifically for oily skin. So if you're an oily skin girl, get this. I don't know any dupes for this or anything that's a little bit more affordable, so I'll do some research on that and try, but I love this. It just really helps set everything, and also it'll help with the oil control. So I'm going to give myself a spray. And also, if you get a little too cakey, a setting spray will just kind of help your makeup look more lived in. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and put on some lips, put on some mascara, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so this is the finished look here. So basically, I used, for the rest of my face, I used this palette. So I used the MakeupShayla palette for my blush, my contour, my highlight. I even went back in with that yellow tone powder there just to make it pop out a little bit more. Put that there, and then I even have it on my eyes as well. So I have the darker shade here in the crease of my eye, and then I have this highlighter shade right in the center. It actually came out really, really bomb. I didn't want to do anything too extra with my eyes, just simply because I really want, you know, to keep the focus on how to do the foundation. So this basically sums up everything. You guys, let me know if you have any questions in regards to this video or just anything at all. Always feel free to ask me any kind of questions as far as hair, makeup, beauty, any of that stuff goes, all right? Because I love answering those questions, and most of all, I like helping you guys out. So that is going to be it for this video. Please like, subscribe, don't leave me anything mean because you know I don't play that. And I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good one.